Boondocking in perfect weather is amazing, and it's a lot of times what people look forward to the most when camping. A perfect 65-degree day and then opening your window at night to let in some cool air, it doesn't get much better than that. But when it comes to winter camping and the temperatures start to go down, you start to experience a little bit more challenges like pipes freezing, tanks freezing, overall just discomfort. But I'm telling you that they're all easy fixes. So if you're thinking of boondocking this winter, or you're just a seasoned vet looking for some more tips, you're in the right place. Here are my 7 tips for winter boondocking comfortably and surviving a polar night. And no, we're not going to be talking about skirting your RV every single time. We've tried it. We're past that. If you've been a part of the channel for a while, you know that we've been boondocking for the past year, and primarily in the winter due to our love of snowboarding. We've camped outside of about 20 ski resorts in the western United States, and we're going to be doing the same this winter. Now, a lot of people shy away from winter camping because things freeze, like your pipes and tanks, it's hard to find campsites, and it's just overall too cold. But I'm here to tell you that this is some of my favorite camping, and it's absolutely worth it. While I'm about to show you some tips, we're going to be having another video coming out next week, which is going to be our honest review of winter camping and all the pros and cons associated with that. So be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that. Winter boondocking is not your normal camping. There is some give and take. So without any further ado, let's get into these tips. The best place to start is tip number 1, and that's assessing your current rig. Whether you already have your rig or you're planning on buying one, the best thing to do is to go for a true 4 seasons rig. All these RV manufacturers are notoriously bad at insulation and ensuring that you have enough for the winter months. A true 4 season is going to have an enclosed and insulated underbelly. That means that there's no space between the wall and the frame in the underbelly. A lot of times there's actually a heat duct that goes underneath as well, heating the insulated underbelly. Our rig is a Grand Design 22 RBE, and we have an enclosed underbelly that is heated, but it's not insulated, and it does have a gap between the wall and the frame. The places where you're going to be losing the most heat are your windows and also little holes maybe by your slide or your door that cause a draft. We've gone through and sealed most of those holes in our rig, and I know a lot of people use reflective insulation for the windows to make sure that a lot of heat is staying inside. So make sure you pay attention to your current setup and what you've got, and then plan accordingly. Tip number 2 is managing your water. Now, pipes freezing is almost inevitable. And in our rig, we're pretty much good all the way until about 20 degrees, but when it gets into the teens and to the single digits, we can kiss our running water goodbye. So to carry water, we have these 2 methods. One, we have these little plastic totes that carry about 1.5 gallons each, and these are easy to manipulate, pour into pots, move around. My wife has no problem with them. And then we also have these larger 6-gallon totes, and we have 2 of these. We always keep one of these full just in case we need extra water, but we can throw this into a filter for drinking water, we can use it for dishes, whatever we'd like. At first, when you don't have running water, it's a little bit frightening, but I promise you in the winter, you can still do all of your dishes, brush teeth, take showers, all of that kind of stuff. A couple tips when it comes to dishes: we generally boil water Pioneer style, throw a sponge in there, and do it that way. And then overall, to just reduce the amount of dishes, we use these little trays, kind of like what you'd get at a burger joint. We throw some parchment paper on there and then eat our food right off of that. It's more cost effective than using paper plates and better for the environment and all that. We don't personally do this, but we know a lot of people that end up getting some sort of tote that has a water pump on it, whether it be electric or hand pump. That allows them to easily take showers, do dishes, and all that kind of stuff. Now this leads into tip number 3, ensuring that your tanks don't freeze. We have a different process for our black tank and our gray tank. For our black tank, it's as simple as just a big bag of rock salt. What we do is after every single dump, we go ahead and throw maybe 1/4 of the bag of rock salt in the bottom of the tank, and then as it fills up, we found that that little bit of salt ensures that nothing actually freezes inside the tank. Now, we actually have kind of leaky tanks, unfortunately, so we always find a little bit of buildup of water inside our external tank. And so to prevent that, you can easily run a heat wire with some electrical tape along the bottom of that to ensure that it's thawed out constantly and you can dump when you need to. For our gray tank, since it's just water going in there, we actually just pour 1 gallon of RV antifreeze in there and it works flawlessly. And the best part about that, RV antifreeze is very cheap, so this is a very cost-effective way of ensuring that your gray tanks don't freeze. Now, if you do have a little bit more time and money, we have seen people install these heating pads on the bottom of their tanks. We haven't personally done this again, but we have seen people do it and they say that it's very effective. Tip number 4 is heat. Us, like most RVs, have an internal furnace, and we have 4 ducts. One goes to the bedroom, the living room, and the bathroom, and then one goes underneath to our underbelly, which blows hot air into that enclosed underbelly. Now, what fuels that obviously is our propane tanks, and we use 3 grill tanks that we constantly switch out. Now, a lot of people that are stationary, they have those larger propane tanks, but we're talking about boondocking, so the grill tanks are very easy to remove, they're easy to store, Just makes more sense to have the smaller one. The third tank we always have full, just in case in the middle of the night, let's say we run out of those 2 tanks that are currently on the RV, we can just throw that third tank on there and have heat for the rest of the night. Also, pro tip here, always bulk fill your propane. Never go to those little propane exchanges. They're rip off, and you can save about $10 every single time you fill if you just go ask the clerk to fill up your tank manually. Now, along with heat, we have 2 space heaters. One is an electric oil-based heater, and then one buddy heater. The electric heater is really nice to have because it supplements some of the heat so we don't have to use as much propane. It keeps it nice and toasty in here. And it's also nice to have by your feet if you're in the slide because it does tend to get pretty cold on this thing. The buddy heater, which is powered by propane, is really good when you're in an emergency. Let's say your batteries are dead, you're out of gas for your generator, yada yada. It's nice to have that little heater so you can survive the night or just be a little bit more comfortable during the day. Now this one might be obvious, but dress in layers. I constantly have long pants on with maybe some long johns, a beanie, and a jacket. This makes it a little bit easier for me to just go outside and fix something or change out the propane tank or whatever it may be. It also psychologically just makes it a little bit easier to winter camp because you're already warm and your outside doesn't technically matter as much. Let's move to tip number 5 and talk about power. We have a 3,500 watt Predator generator that we absolutely love. We have thousands of hours on this thing and we've only had to replace the spark plug, I think twice, maybe 3 times. This is a major factor for our power in this RV. Everything in this electrical system in this RV is powered by the 12-volt marine battery that's on the front of the camper, and obviously if you're plugged into a generator, it's like you're on shore power. We also use the generator to supplement our solar battery to ensure that our batteries and everything can be powered on the inside at all times. We do have a solar setup. It's a 200 amp hour battery powered by about 300 watts of panels on the roof, and this does a great job of keeping everything alive at night when we can't run a generator or maybe we just don't want to run a generator. It's a very small but simple setup, and we do have a video on my installation if you do want to check that out. But essentially the main purpose of the solar in the winter is when we go to bed, we pop the solar on and then it keeps everything alive during the night to power the furnace, outlets, and all that kind of stuff. Now, if our solar dies in the middle of the night, or let's say we're at a truck stop and we can't use our generator or something like that, we always have a little Jackery electric generator. This thing has saved us countless times if it's gotten really cold or we're at a truck stop. We can just easily plug in a heated blanket to that and we'll be nice and toasty warm, even in single digits. Tip number 6 is talking about humidity. A major problem when camping in the winter is moisture. From your breath, from the heat that you give off, it all stays inside the camper and you can see it build up on the windows and all over the place. Over time, this can cause mold and it just reduces the overall longevity of your camper. It's a big thing that you want to manage. So the best way to combat that is to have a dehumidifier. Ours is constantly running, we can empty it out really quick, and it ensures not only your comfort, but the overall longevity of your rig. Now, a little simple trick which you can always do is get something, I just get mine at Walmart, they're called damp raids. And we generally hang these up in our closet. What they do is the moisture combines to these little crystals inside the damp raid, and then it falls below and it catches all the moisture in this little bag. You can get 3 for like $11, and I think they do a fantastic job of gathering a lot of the moisture in the RV. Tip number 7 has to do with safety. With the furnace running and a lot of electrical devices being used, especially with heat, there's a lot of risk that can be involved here, but it's very easy to mitigate. Number 1, you should always have an effective CO2 monitor. Make sure it's always plugged into power and that it's good to go, because it can save lives. Second, you want to always monitor your electrical output. You don't want to plug in 5 different space heaters and start blowing fuses and breakers are sparking. That's a big no-no. Now, for your space heaters, ensure that they have ample space and they're not next to anything that's flammable like wood or a blanket. Make sure that they're kind of on their own, maybe sitting in the middle or off to the side somewhere. We don't want anything on these space heaters that could potentially catch fire. Now, last for the electrical, ensure that you're clearing all these fans and vents of dust or hair, because that's easily flammable as well. Now, for us, we do have an insurance policy. It's a double 0-degree sleeping bag. It's massive, so I'm not going to take it out, but it just gives me peace of mind that if everything else failed and it was 10 degrees at night, we have that double sleeping bag so we can sleep comfortably and the animals can crawl inside and we can all be warm through the night until the morning when I can go and get some propane or new batteries or whatever I need. Now, during all last winter, we adapted, we made changes, we learned from our mistakes so you don't have to. And all that to say, we did survive a negative 35-degree night during a polar vortex in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Yes, it was very cold, but we were toasty all night long. Our batteries didn't even die, and we woke up to some beautiful snow and snowboarding the next day, so it was perfect. I really hope these tips were helpful and that you learned something new and it gives you the confidence to actually go out and winter boondock, because I'm telling you, it's my favorite type of camping. Like I mentioned, we're going to be making another video about our honest pros and cons, which will be coming out next week. We'll also be heading into the mountains of Colorado for some snowboarding, so stay tuned for those videos. Make sure to hit subscribe after this video and hit that little bell notification to be notified every single time that we post a video. We post once a week. Also, I ask if you have any tips yourself or you notice something that I missed today, throw that in the comments, because people are constantly reading the comments, seeing what other people have to say in the RV community. So I hope you enjoyed it. That's it from us this week, and we'll see you on the road.